Okay. So I just did the live stream for preventing fleas and ticks. And I didn't hit record. So I'm going to record this just by myself. And I'm going to show you the slides and kind of talk about everything that I just talked about with everyone who attended. Um, so I'm sorry about that. But let's get started talking about fleas and ticks. So um, maybe I can make this a little more condensed so it's less like ranty. All right, so let's start. So I will share my screen now and we will start this again. So treating and preventing fleas and ticks naturally. So mainly in this slide, we're talking about fleas, but a lot of the stuff that I'm going to be talking about is actually, it'll protect against ticks and mosquitoes as well. But because I'm kind of dealing with a flea infestation right now. I was talking to everyone who joined about that. So I have a lot of experience with preventing and killing fleas naturally. Right now I'm living with my grandparents. Well, we are living with my grandparents until our house is ready for us to move into. We finally found a house, so we're just kind of waiting. And my grandparents do not protect their pets against fleas, and they didn't notice that there was an infestation in the house. How? I have no idea. But they didn't. So when we came here, my pets had to suffer because of that. So within this past year, I've been trying a lot of new things with not just prevention, but now treating fleas naturally. So we're going to go over how I did that and what I used and what's been helpful. So common flea and tick control. So what we usually use, when we're not doing natural prevention is collars, topicals, and chewables. So the collars and topicals kind of work in a similar fashion. So these work by depositing chemicals into the sebaceous glands where the active ingredient is released and translocates through the oil glands of the skin. So it doesn't really go deeper than skin level, at least from my understanding. So the other one is the oral chewables. And these are said to be more effective because once ingested, they basically get absorbed into the body through the bloodstream. So that's a deeper level of chemicals being inside your pet. But since the fleas and ticks and mosquitoes drink the blood, they're going to be killed pretty instantly. So the chemicals obviously kill the fleas and ticks and mosquitoes because they're chemicals and they are a pesticide and they attack the nervous system. So that's what kills them. And it's very effective, but it's not something that we want to put into our pets' bodies like every month, if ever. So we are going to talk about the natural preventions that we can use instead. But one thing I want to talk about is that these chemical preventions do not repel fleas and ticks. A lot of people think that they do, and no, they only kill them. So a lot of people are like, why did a flea, why do I see fleas on my pet? Like they're on prevention. Why is a tick attached to my dog? He's on prevention. Um, because it doesn't repel them. They still smell the blood and they still attach to your pet, but then they die because they consume the chemicals. So another great thing about the natural prevention we're going to talk about is because, or a great thing about them is that they repel them. So the first one is natural flea and tick spray. So the sprays work by using certain essential oils that fleas and ticks either don't like the smell of or will kill them. So some oils like peppermint contain a compound that makes it difficult for fleas to breathe. And we'll talk about peppermint because there's something about peppermint that unfortunately is an issue. And then there's other oils like eucalyptus oil, which have insecticidal properties, so it will kill them in other ways. But most of the essential oils that we use, like lemongrass, cedarwood, lavender, rosemary, and basil oil, they help repel. So they don't kill, um, but they do keep them away because fleas and ticks and mosquitoes don't like this smell. So there are certain oils that are harmful to both cats, dogs, and ferrets. So we only really know about cats and dogs, so I don't use any essential oils on ferrets. I try to be safe than better to be safe than sorry. So the harmful oils for cats. Here's a list, but lavender and peppermint I have highlighted red because there's certain pet products that actually still have peppermint and lavender in it. That are labeled safe, and maybe they are. They may have diluted them enough to be safe, but I still would kind of be wary about spraying peppermint and lavender on cats. And then for dogs, a lot of the same ones. Peppermint again is in here. So I don't ever use peppermint, even though there are a lot of peppermint prevention like sprays. So Wonderside is a brand I really like. They have shampoos, they have coat and bedding sprays, they have yard sprays, topical drops, and they also have collars. And as you can see over here, the collar is peppermint. They have a peppermint spray. So I don't use those. But I really like their rosemary spray, which the main thing I use from them is the coat and bedding spray. So I use a rosemary and I use lemongrass, and there's another one. It's a green one, but I don't have it up here. But basically I steer clear from the peppermint and lavender just because I do have a cat, so I'm not going to use lavender very much. But yeah, I do like to rotate between different scents just because certain scents may be more effective than others with the fleas and ticks around me. So I do like to rotate between different scents. So Wonderside is a good brand, and also Kin and Kind. Kin and Kind only have shampoo and spray. I have used Kin and Kind's lavender shampoo on Matsu, but I can't say it's the most effective thing, especially if you're dealing with an infestation. Just a simple, you know, essential oil bath isn't going to kill fleas and ticks. Especially again if there's an infestation. I think it's something to use, in rotation with the other things that you're using, which I will go over. But I have used it. So how to do this as a prevention. So what you should do is spray it on the coat before and after going outside, or if you see fleas on your pet. But if you do see fleas on your pet, obviously there's a few more things that you should be doing other than just spraying, which I will talk about. And of course, spray on the bedding every few days as well as prevention. When I lived in Virginia and I wasn't dealing with a flea issue, this and the next thing that I'm going to be talking about are the only two things that I really used as prevention, and it worked perfectly. So I sprayed Matsu with this every time before he went outside, and I sprayed his bedding every few days. All right, so the next one is internal flea and tick powder. So this is something that goes into their food, and it's all natural herbs, basically, and spices, I believe. So how does it work? So the natural ingredient in this powder changes the pet's odor. So fleas, ticks, and mosquitoes basically don't want to be around them. They don't, it changes the way their blood smells. So it fleas and ticks and mosquitoes can tell, but us humans can't. We can't tell like how their blood smells. So I think this is a pretty unique and effective way of prevention. So the things that fleas and ticks really don't like is neem, nettle, alfalfa, and garlic. Garlic in particular is very good at repelling, but of course, garlic is kind of iffy. People are like, it's not very safe. Other people are like, oh, it's very safe. It's really good to put into their diet every day. So I believe that in a certain amount, it's safe. And I have not experienced any issues from using these powders with garlic in it. So one of them that I've used is Earth Animal. This one is really easy to find at like smaller pet stores or even maybe bigger pet stores now. And they use pretty good ingredients. They do use garlic. And another one that I have used a lot is Wildly Blended's Bug Off. And they do not use garlic. So I like to actually rotate between different brands just so the body isn't, um, I don't know, getting used to certain ingredients, and the fleas and ticks in my area aren't getting used to those certain ingredients too. It's just kind of in something that I think about. Maybe you don't have to do that, but I personally like to rotate. And the Pet Health and Nutrition Center is another one that I noticed has their own powder. And I really like them. They're a very good brand. I found them recently, and I just think they have a good understanding of holistic care and natural sourcing. Like their sourcing is very good, so I really like them. So I'm probably going to use their powder next. I also think it's a good idea to rotate, not only rotate, but take a break from the powders, especially during the winter, so the body can kind of detox, and not necessarily detox, but um, just refresh itself. So how to use this powder? Add it to the food daily, take a break during the winter if possible, and rotate between sources. And again, that one and the Wondercide spray are the two that I mainly used, and it worked great. So the next one is Baltic Amber Colors, which is I'm iffy about, but I have used it in rotation or with the other two things that I've used, and I don't know if it's been helpful or not, but so here's what Baltic Amber does. So the amber beads rub up against the fur, and it creates an electrostatic, which apparently makes it difficult for pests to cling onto. And I can't say I'm 100%, sure that that's happening or it's effective, or that it's happening all over the pet's body and not just the neck. But I've got one, and maybe it's helping, but I'm still using the sprays and the powder. And apparently only raw Baltic amber contains these properties. So Perfect Bark Boutique is who I got mine from, and it's PURRFECT, Bark Boutique, and they have their own website. So the one I have, it's kind of blurry, but there's little lava stones, and I actually like the one with the lava stones because I can put little drops of essential oil like lemongrass or rosemary in there, and that makes it a little more effective. So yes, so using it as a prevention, keep the collar on at all times, and add safe and effective essential oils to the lava rocks if you have the lava rock one. The next one is actually for the yard, not the pet. So it's beneficial nematodes. So nematodes are live, and they're actually a pest to the pests. So nematodes enter the flea larva by penetrating the body wall, and once they're inside, they release a bacteria that kills them. So nematodes are very effective against fleas, and they kill them in the yard. But they are harmless to other animals and humans, so that's great. The brand that I want to use is Arbico Organics Neem Attack, and they have specific directions and things on how to use it, because I was kind of overwhelmed and I was like, how do I do this right? So they have everything on their website, which they explain. So basically, what you do to use this as a prevention and also as a treatment is they should be mixed with water because they're alive. So that if you buy them, it says to put them in the fridge for like 2 weeks max, or else after those 2 weeks, they'll probably be dead. And don't freeze them. So mix them with water and then spray them, either attach something to your hose with them inside of it. and spray them, or put them into like a watering can and pour them over the yard. So they need to be poured directly onto the soil, and it's best to do it either in the early morning or at dusk when the sun isn't directly on them, because too much sunlight could actually kill them. And the temperature should be above 42 degrees. And apparently, they can last up to 18 months in the yard. So I think that's awesome, and I'm going to start using them. um, the next one is diatomaceous earth. This is one that I would only use to help kill fleas, not as a preventative. And I'll explain why. But diatomaceous earth consists of fossilized remains of diatoms. And diatoms are a hard-shelled microalgae that dehydrates and destroys fleas' exoskeleton. So if a flea comes in contact with this powder, it'll kill them eventually because it harms their exoskeleton. So what you would do to kill fleas is apply the powder to your pet's coat daily if you see the fleas on your pet. Again, I wouldn't say only use this to kill fleas because a lot of different things need to be used if you're going the natural route. And the reason why I don't often love diatomaceous earth is because it's a very, very fine powder, and it'll be like flying all over the place. It's dirty, messy, not dirty, but messy. And since it's going to be floating in the air, you're going to be breathing it in, and your pet's going to be breathing it in. And I don't think that's very healthy to do like every day. So I would, again, only use this if needed, if you see fleas. So Harris is a good brand. I'm not sure, like sourcing wise, if they're the best brand, but you get a lot for cheap. And I wouldn't say you need this much even. So maybe this isn't the best route to go with. I would probably suggest the Pet Health and Nutrition Center again. They have like a 12 or 16-ounce bag, and it is more expensive, but you're really not going to need that much. And obviously, you want to make sure it's food grade as well, just in case they get it in their mouth. Some people actually feed food grade diatomaceous earth to their pets if they're dealing with a flea infestation, but I don't really want to do that. So the next thing that we can do to kill fleas, not as a prevention, but just to kill them if you have an infestation, is coconut oil. So you're not actually feeding the coconut oil, you are putting it on their coat. So the lauric acid from the coconut oil covers the fleas and prevents them from being able to move, which soon kills them. And I think it also prevents them from breathing, if I remember correctly. It can get messy as well. So what you would need to do is bring the coconut oil to a liquid, then lightly lather it on your pet's coat. So I have done this recently actually because I'm still seeing fleas. So I did it on my ferret actually. So I didn't put it throughout his whole body because I don't want him licking all of that off. It's not harmful, but it's not great for him to just eat a lot of coconut oil. So I put it on areas that I've mainly seen fleas kind of gathering, and which is kind of his shoulder blade area, the base of his neck, and like the base of his tail, which is where fleas like to gather. And I kind of put a lot on there. He can kind of lick near his tail, but he can't lick up in his shoulder blades, so that didn't worry me. And I've kind of, it seemed to help. I'm seeing less fleas when I'm flea combing him. So you need to leave that on for like at least a day, but if not more, depending on how bad the infestation is. And then the next one, which is crucial here, is vacuuming daily. This is something that probably is the reason why I'm still seeing some fleas and ticks here. Not ticks, I keep saying that, just fleas. Because I have not been vacuuming daily. And it's because there's so many rugs here, and it's just a kind of a bigger house, and I don't know. I don't know. I should be doing it. But vacuuming daily, a lot of people don't know this, but fleas don't actually live on your pet. They just get on your pet to eat, and then they actually live in like rugs or carpets or bedding. So vacuuming is really helpful, especially if there's like flea eggs in there, to get that up. And then it's also important to take the bag out of the vacuum and put it into a trash can like outside, because there may still be fleas that are alive in there or are about to hatch and come right back out. So also, washing the bedding weekly or at least putting them in the dryer daily. Washing weekly, I mean, it may get a little too much or too expensive to do that just because it's a lot of water being used, probably. But I put my pet's bedding into the dryer on high for at least 10 minutes every day. And it's a lot of work, but I just, yeah. So vacuuming daily and at least putting the bedding in the dryer daily can be very helpful with killing the flea eggs, because I'm sure there's a lot of flea eggs in the bedding. Um, and then also flea combing daily. This is something that I have been doing and I would recommend doing even if you're not dealing with an infestation, because you want to make sure that, you know, the natural prevention that you're doing is working. So flea combing the pets daily is going to be very helpful, especially if you obviously, I think it's best to do it outside, because if, you know, a flea, you know, you brush a flea and it jumps off the comb and it just goes back somewhere in your house. So yeah, flea combing daily is definitely crucial. And of course, being consistent with your treatment on all of the animals. So, you know, I was just treating my animals for a while at the very beginning. I made my grandfather get his pets just chemical treatment because I was just not going to deal. But of course, I still, you know, I brushed them a little bit, but that didn't help. He only treated his pets for like a month, and you need to do it for at least 3 months. And if there's an infestation, I would say like 6 months, honestly. But yeah, so that's the reason why we're dealing with this. um, it's not just his fault, it's also my fault. I'm not going through with my natural prevention every single day and to every single pet. So, yeah, I basically need to do everything that I just talked about every day, probably to deal with this infestation. It's getting better, but it's just is not where it needs to be. And at certain points, I've wanted to use chemical prevention just because it's more effective. But I can't. It's hard. So those were the main things. I will stop screen recording. I think I stopped screen recording. Those were the main things. I tried to make this a little faster, just because I didn't freaking record when I was talking to everyone. So I think I went over everything though. And I will upload these slides to the section as well where I'm going to upload this video. So hopefully that was helpful. Someone I think also mentioned in the chat while we were doing this, like flea traps with a light on it. So that's another natural prevention that we could actually try as well. I'll share my screen again just to show you, because I thought this was pretty unique. So it's a flea trap. It also traps other bugs, I guess, but the light kind of attracts them, and then there's like a sticky pad down here that they get stuck on. So I thought that was interesting as well. So okay, I will stop now. I will upload this, and hopefully next time I will not forget to record. So thank you everyone who came, and thank you everyone who watched this. Why is it blurry? And hopefully this was helpful. And yes, this will be uploaded in a few hours.